Hi class, this is Marcia Harris. I'm excited to learn about your final projects and following is mine. I am examining access and success for student survivors of traumatic brain injury. So students are motivated, typically when they go to higher ed, for academic success and cannot anticipate a fall, concussion, accident, military event leading to a traumatic brain injury. When that happens, it's a confusing reality. It alters their future, and success and access to higher education becomes challenging to the degree that over 70% drop out after the first month. Um, it needs to change so these motivated, bright students can study, work, and become self-sufficient. Education is the key for success of institutions, the affected students, and it relieves tax burden. There are nearly 5.3 million Americans living with disabilities, and the highest incidence comes from college-age students. Researchers looked at college-age students and found that the prevalence of concussions was higher than anticipated. It was assumed to be between 10 and 25%, but this study showed that 51.7% of students have experienced a TBI. They also learned that campus disability services were underutilized, and you have to have services when you have a brain injury to be successful. So impacts of learning and the college experience include speech and language, memory, attention, reasoning, abstract thinking, judgment, spatial awareness. And as this translates to brain injury, problem solving becomes challenging, psychosocial behavior, information speech processing, executive functioning, seizures, balance coordination, and visual impairments. So in college, the things that become difficult are applying, the application process, even for disabilities, keeping track of deadlines, that's executive functioning, applying for financial aid, keeping up with assignments, interacting with peers, we talked about the psychosocial part, driving, and living independently on or off campus and navigating campus itself. A student I worked with had to have all of their clothes lined up in sequence of how they would put them on in the morning. Showers had to be lined up. Food had to be organized and lined up. So there's a lot of things that translate into well-being of these students. So why do we need accessibility and success? Less than half of adults can return to school or work a year after an injury, and that doesn't improve over time. 70%, as we mentioned, drop out of school after the first month. So why do we need to focus on them? Because students with disabilities have a unique voice. They're important. And this voice emerges from particular individual and group experiences. We can all learn by interacting with people that are different and challenged. Literature review supports this. The population of students in TBIs is increasing, and access and success in higher education relates to positive changes in self, cognitive, physical, and social and emotional areas, and in the education experience. Educational professionals who help these students have limited training, and that's been underscored in literature. One study examines the challenges and the barriers, and they have found that greater independence, positivity, improved technology improves with technical accommodations. So specific technology can help these folks. So there are solutions. Young adults represent the most common group, as we've mentioned, and unfortunately, 97% of student survivors report cognitive decline and 81% reduce their course load or drop out. Key is a speech language pathologist, which we will discuss later. Further studies shows that things that are important to help students are self-regulating, so they determine what they can and cannot do. So self-regulating their own academic abilities and limitations. Individualized strategy instruction by coaches, which speech language pathologists and or disability service workers are tailored to the unique needs of the student. Cognitive impairments are often chronic, so they don't go away, and college-age students with TBIs frequently experience lower academic performance and higher dropout rates, as we've mentioned. However, only 20%, according to this study, are aware of available services and supports. As these are very important for success, and advanced degrees promote economic self-sufficiency, and emphasizing higher education can benefit students, institutions, and society, it's important that the students are connected with services. As we've mentioned, cognitive support technologies help, and they can help with memory, attention, and other executive functions. Another important intervention to remove barriers is vocational rehabilitation, which addresses barriers to employment and provides individualized support. These professionals are well-versed in counseling, coaching, and referrals. The Institute of Concussion Research provides strong evidence of the need for support services and utilizing them. According to WHO, it remains a global health crisis. Young adults are the most highly likely to experience this, and it's increasing. Incidence in this age group is increasing by 60% and has been since 2001. So improvement to access and success and academic and employment outcomes for students with TBI are improved with interventions, including, as we mentioned, technology, rehabilitation, counseling, mentorships, and the results indicate if students use this, 63% experience improved quality of life, and 75% demonstrate improved academic performance by using these tools. Although it's the leading cause of disability among students, many fail to seek treatment or accommodations. So the barriers remain. Disability professionals often lack awareness of the unique needs of this growing population. Interventions are essential, but are underutilized. And this was underscored for me as I went on a personal study to various disability services and asked the front desk folks if they have particular services for students with TBI, and I was met with a deer in the headlights. These folks aren't trained. They don't understand that there's a specific need and accommodations. Early intervention supports students with TBI. We've got to catch them before they drop out and reinforces the need for services targeted college-age young adults to encourage access and success. There are solutions. Returning to school with the outcome of academic success after TBI requires a team, including rehabilitation professionals, as we've mentioned, and it's proven successful. The first team member is the family, probably the most important. They're kind of the MC of the whole team. So they collaborate to establish a successful team. Active involvement of a family member is considered a key element into the success and maximum development of TBI students. Family helps with planning, time management, management schedules, self-monitoring, and assists with navigating available services on campus. Second team member is the disability staff. Over only a third of these students informed their college of their disability. It's burdensome to report, because if you remember, executive functions are diminished with students with traumatic brain injury. And in order to take a test, these folks have to get the documentation from their doctors, take it into disability services, sit down, have meetings every semester determining what accommodations are approved. Whereas an able student can just go in and take a test. So the significant burdensome number of steps for a student with a disability from a traumatic brain injury is added to a brain that already has difficulty with executive functioning. However, disability staff can aid in time management, study schedule, meeting deadlines, test taking, motivation, and they can communicate with professors. Mental fatigue is so significant for this group of students that taking over these burdensome tasks has proven successful. They are a key member of the team. Accommodations are so essential. It's how we bridge the gap, and connecting with disability service offices is essential. Another team member is the vocational rehabilitation worker. These specialists are found at local, state, and federal levels. Family members or disability service workers can connect students with vocational rehabilitation. They support the students, and it's proven successful. They are caseworkers trained to match the unique profile of the student with complex factors of academic and employment needs and offer support and training. Vocational rehabilitation workers help to identify opportunities according to the complex interacting factors of the students with school and work, and they implement support from the environment for success. Speech-language pathologists are key for success of students with traumatic brain injury. These folks are trained in helping the students. They're key members. So students have a lifelong disability, and professionals working with patients draw on medical and clinical expertise with knowledge of neurophysiology and neuroanatomy, including cognitive behavioral changes. These experts consider the brain's responses to the injury, and they understand it. The severity of the various barriers are understood by a speech-language pathologist. They not only provide interventions and assessment and services that support the deficiencies, but they prevent negative performance of academic, vocational, and even social activities. They're professionally knowledgeable about the key elements of assessment, interventions, and services. But what's even more important, they understand. Research suggests that training new skills and strategies in context, cognitive communication interventions enhances the participation and modifying contextual elements that can eliminate barriers and encourage success. These folks are client-centered, and they develop a relationship. They modify the environment, often dimming the lights and reducing noise. They implement interventions. They may share a calendar with the student that says, okay, it's Monday. I know you have this due, so let's start with small steps. They set goals with the student, and they help them transition from academics to a return to work situation. In addition, they also have the opportunity to see the joy that results from the success of their patients and their friends and their students. Another important team member are academic advisors. Academic advisors need to become familiar with the pedagogy of various instructors and match these students with these instructors. They're familiar with the rules and regulations of their institution and of federal legislation, and they can help planning academic maps with an understanding of the limitations of student survivors of TBI. Oftentimes, these students need to change majors or change their calendar or schedule, and academic advisors can do this. In addition, they can create lasting relationships with the student, which is essential for their success. The administrator or trainer is important, as universities are struggling to meet the needs of these students, which is obvious from the high dropout and barriers that are that the students are experiencing. The administrator is responsible for the quality training and instruction to all team members. It assembles people responsible, those other team members we just talked about, and trains them for interventions. In conclusion, student survivors of traumatic brain injury face persistent cognitive, social, and emotional challenges that can complicate access and success in higher education. Research shows that while prevalence is high, services remain underutilized, and professionals often lack training and effective interventions. Evidence supports the use of dynamic coaching, cognitive support technologies, individualized accommodations, and early interventions. And these tools are utilized best with a holistic team-based approach, which we've talked about, that draws on the strength of family members, disability service providers, vocational rehabilitation specialists, speech-language pathologists, and of course, trainers. Giving a voice to the students themselves ensures that supports align with their lived experiences. By building stronger awareness, professional development, and collaborative support systems, institutions of higher education can transform TBI from an invisible barrier to an opportunity for resilience, growth, and meaningful access and success in higher education. Thank you.